And we are live. I believe.
Alright,
Double
yo, just
checking.
give it a second to make sure it's all good.
Yep. And I'm double checking that the stream is live on YouTube. It appears to be. It is up.
Beautiful.
All right. Hello and welcome everybody once again to GPL's GT500. Here we are for round 4 at Mount Panorama, an iconic circuit, especially for endurance racing and these types of cars. Um, Last week we had quite a bit of technical issues, but it seems like we're probably not going to have that this time around, ideally. And it was a pretty good race last week, and it seems like we're going to have another excellent race this week again. And I do see a couple of new and updated liveries once again on the track here. Notably that of JD Killswitch and Artura having a color flipped version of his car. We got Whiteout on track doing a little bit of practice. And just in a few minutes here, we're going to get started with the qualifying session.
Yes, and I would like to extend the welcome given by my co-host here, B23. Welcome you back to GPL, the GT500 category, and it's going to be a really good race here. Mount Panorama, very historic circuit. It's been around since 1938. It's been used in several different endurance races. The most recent one, which was the Bathurst 1000 in the Supercar Championship, which this track is very tricky because you're going up a winding mountainside road and that very sharp corner going down the mountain around the Skyline Straight and the S's. If you're not careful, that can cause some serious damage to your car. Now, to give you some Gran Turismo specific specs about this track, 3.861 miles or 6.2 kilometers, 22 turns on this track, and the BOP setting for this track is high speed, well, not so surprisingly. You do have a lot of long straightaways, especially up and down the mountain, and of course on the start-finish straight. So there's some really good overtaking opportunities, but there's also some very dangerous ones, particularly in that mountain area. So I'm expecting carnage on this, honestly.
Yeah, me too. And I told Yuki yesterday that track position is going to be extremely important here, even despite those really long straights, because the road is super thin. Even on those straights, it's going to be really hard to get a clean overtake done. And especially as you go up into the mountain area of the track, it's going to be nearly impossible to overtake unless you are just set up so perfectly. So track position, qualifying here is going to be extremely consequential to the race results, is what I'm predicting.
Yeah, so strong qualifying. It's always good to have a strong qualifying. I mean, it makes your job so much easier, but this track in particular, you really want to have a strong qualifying. Like you mentioned earlier, there is a lot of straightaways, but they're very narrow, so you can really go about 2 cars wide, and even then, that's still dicey for this track. Especially if you decide to go on a major offensive push and try to overtake on that mountain. So definitely the best areas to attack here are going to be those long straightaways, but you're probably going to have some opportunistic people that might see somebody get caught up in that mountain, especially for that really steep dip that is very easy to cut that one corner. And yeah, it's going to be chaos today. I'm already going to prophesy it.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will have a few opportunistic looks in some dangerous areas up there. It's just kind of how it goes, even though whether or not it's the best move or not, it's just what happens when you're racing cars. You got to get ahead. And as you mentioned, too, the super sharp elevation dips on this track are usually on the windiest parts of this track as well. And so it's extremely easy to get caught off and let your grip levels just disappear on you very suddenly. And it's in the same section of the track where you're getting extremely close to the walls as well. So we're probably going to see a decent amount of people either scraping the walls or accidentally making some contact there, maybe even getting some damage, all on their own. And so it's just as dangerous of a track, even when you're cruising by yourself around here.
Definitely. Getting the optimal lap time requires a lot of pushing, and this track is tough. Actually, the section that Lucian's about to go on right now, it is a very easy corner to cut. This corner right here, it's very easy to cut if you have any kind of lapse of concentration, because at first glance, it looks like you could just keep going straight. If that's the case, there is actually a turn there that you're supposed to make. And if you don't make it, then that is a penalty that is going to definitely hamper your race. So you got to have concentration, especially during Sector 2 in that mega area.
Yeah, and plus the...
I believe we will
Sorry
start
about that.
qualifying here. Yep. I was going to say, I think we are about to start qualifying here in the very near future. Oh, Inspector Seb off into the gravel, but he is going to reset back to the pits. And I believe we're about to get qualifying underway. So, 30 seconds until we start qualifying as given by the lobby host, good old Nuko. And we'll just see how this session goes. I think it's going to be very close at the top. I think Whiteout, Nuko, and Alex are going to be the drivers to watch. Lucian also going to be part of the house. But anything can happen. Even that little tiny bit of a scrape that Lucian had could be enough to just ruin your qualifying to put you way back on the grid. So that is definitely something you will want to avoid if possible. Which, I mean, with how talented these drivers are, I have no doubt in my mind that these drivers are extremely talented.
Yeah, even the slightest contact, a little brush against the walls could cost you at least a second worth of your lap time here. And it's not a short lap either, so every little bit adds up quite a lot. Almost a 2 whole minute lap time. Those are the kind of lap times we see around Spa, which is notoriously one of the longest purpose-built circuits. And it looks like we are getting started with the qualifying session now.
Yeah, so if you are new here, or maybe you're new to Gran Turismo and you just wanted a new racing series to kind of get into, first off, welcome. We really do appreciate you guys being here. And we're just going to explain a little bit of like qualifying here, because it's a singular times qualifying session, and ideally we want to run the soft tire compound. While the soft tire compound has the lowest tire life, it has the most grip. And qualifying is very... If you get the fastest time, you start from the front of the grid. If you get the slowest time, you start from the back of the grid. Everything in between will sort itself out based on the lap times here. You will have to do an L lap, so your first lap coming out of the pits won't necessarily count, but it's a lap immediately afterwards that's going to count. And like B23 said, it's a very long L lap here, so the drivers are going to want to make the most of it here today.
Yeah, absolutely. With a longer out lap, which of course doesn't count towards your quali time, the longer that out lap is, the fewer attempts you're going to have, realistically. And so, yeah, makes every single one of those attempts much more important, and it just puts the pressure on these guys to perform.
Exactly. So, the one thing that, and actually, I believe this is actually the longest outlap that we're going to have all season. I don't think we're going to a track that has a longer outlap than here in Australia. So, most of the outlaps for the rest of the season, if not all of them, will be shorter than this, but we're not on those tracks right now. We're at Bathurst. So we definitely want to see these drivers make the most out of it. Speaking of drivers going to try to make the most out of the laps, Nuko will begin his lap going around these twisty Mount Panorama roads.
A little bit tiny slip on the curb there right away, and so that might not be too good for his lap time, but nonetheless, I think he'll be able to recover it. He's an extremely fast driver. And also, these guys don't have any overtake in these cars to worry about managing in this qualifying session. Like in the Super Formula cars, usually you want to use all of your overtake throughout the whole lap that you possibly can. But since these guys don't have that to manage and have to reset to the pits after each attempt in order to recharge that, these guys might be able to just make multiple hot lap attempts consecutively, which normally with Super Formulas is not the case. They'd have to reset, take another out lap, make sure all their stuff is recharged up. And so that also means that the lap times could be coming down bit by bit if they do consecutive attempts, because their fuel loads will lighten as the session continues if they're not returning to the pits. And so for the more skilled drivers, especially the ones at the top of the timing charts, a lighter fuel load will make the difference possibly between pole position and missing out on pole position.
Definitely. And also another thing to note too is that as these laps tick on, not only is the car going to get lighter because of the lesser amount of fuel that's in the car, the tires are also going to be in a more optimal temperature window so they can get the most amount of grip. Nuko's going to go ahead and try to cross the line here. We'll see what his time is. It's going to be a 151.5, and he's going to have provisional pole position here at the beginning of the session.
Oh,
Whiteout decides that a 151 was too slow for his taste, and he jumps up with a 150. I believe he's the only driver currently that has a 150. No, actually, I think Lucian might have a one. No, Lucian's a 151. So right now, Whiteout is the only driver in that 150 time. Got 4 tenths ahead on Lucian, but Lucian is on a improvement. It's improvement, not enough to dethrone Whiteout, but it is improvement indeed. We'll go on board here with the Norwegian driver as he makes his way through this mountain. This is such a mesmerizing bit of track if you're watching somebody just nail it to perfection, like we see here with Lucian. I mean, this is just, it's a very popular track for a lot of reasons. You usually see great races on, and it's so satisfying. It is essentially the Australian Nordschleife.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as he goes through that section of the track where, as you mentioned earlier, there is a bit of a runoff area where it's extremely easy to cut. In fact, it seems like the more natural line to take. It's really unnatural to do what the actual track line is. So extremely easy. That's the thing that I do pretty much every time I'm here. I cut that corner every time. This is one of my weakest tracks, to be honest. It's just so difficult, and yeah, you really have to, car, mind, track all have to be perfectly in sync for a track like this.
Yeah, because I remember back a few months ago, I was doing this track on a Super Formula, and I had a okay-ish qualifying. I qualified 6th in the Hyundai. I messed up on the mount section, and I got dropped down to about 8th place or so. So it shows that just one tiny mistake, especially that mount spot, can just turn your whole race upside down.
Absolutely, and it looks like we have a couple of time improvements, very, very slight time improvements over Illusion, where the margins here are so small. Nuko is now into the 50s too, and just as he crashes into the wall there, so that attempt will be undone. He also has a bit of damage to his suspension and the front of his car. So this lap won't be a hot lap attempt here, but he also has Whiteout behind him, who is on a hot lap, it would seem.
Oh, he's just going to go ahead and cut that chicane, and he's just going to slow down, let Whiteout, who is the faster car at the moment, just go ahead and make the pass and try not to impede him. I mean, that's a good usage of that little runoff area down to that corner.
Yeah, that was perfect.
No impeding, and the qualifying lap was able just to continue as anticipated for the American driver. I think he might be on an improvement. Yes, he is. He's a tenth faster than his previous lap. So he's going to raise that bar ever so higher in this qualifying session.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive considering last lap too was an improvement over his initial provisional pole setting lap. And now he's on another purple lap here. And so, yeah, as you can see, his fuel load too is much lighter than what he started with. And he improves by another 10th. So I think as long as he doesn't make any mistakes and just keeps this going just how he is here, the tires are holding on great. So he can do this whole session running that fuel load all the way down to 0 and just keep getting another 10th, 2/10ths off of his lap time every single lap. As you can see, he's already up almost a whole 10th already just in the first sector of his next attempt.
And that was like the least technical of this track. So now we're going into the most technical section of the track, where that weight is going to make the car so maneuverable. I mean, these cars aren't as sensitive to the changes of wind and other gravitational factors like the Super Formula cars are. But even by that standard, the wind is not bad right now. It is only 7 feet per second right now, which is not a whole lot compared to some of the races that we have seen in the past, especially if you're also watching Formula GT, because that race at the Nürburgring, they were dealing with winds up to like 15, 16, even 17 feet per second. So it's definitely a the wind isn't as much of a factor of these cars, but it can still hold off if you're not fully locked in. And like B23 said earlier, just mind, body, and car all in perfect harmony.
Absolutely. It looks like Illusion is on an improvement lap from his personal best, but I don't think it'll be quite enough for provisional pole position, at least at this stage. As he goes a little wide onto the grass, that might cost him. But
He's
yeah,
also
the top four
very
here.
minimal fuel.
Yeah, running all the fuel all the way down. Just as I thought, these guys trying to take consecutive
grass too for Illusion.
attempts. Yeah, that cost him big time. The final sector kind of undid his whole lap there, and it looks like Nuco ran his fuel all the way down. He is in the pits. His fuel is brand new. His tires are brand new. Back to the default starting positions. And yeah, these top four, like I would say 2 through 4 are switching positions over and over again as they keep doing attempts, but no one is quite able to dethrone Whiteout's lap times.
That's not going to stop Alex from trying to. Alex, I think he might be on an improvement. He's on okay, he's not on the fresh set of rubber. He's actually been on the same set of rubber this entire session, but there's not a whole lot of tire wear here for these qualifying sessions. So really the biggest factor is going to be fuel. Now we go on board the German driver as he just absolutely aced this bounce section here. I just gave him a bit of commentator's curse. He taps a few walls, and that might be his lap done. I should have kept my mouth shut. But
That's how it always
I'm
goes.
a commentator, and it's my job to yap. So apologies to Alex. But maybe that was just a little bit of a desync, and maybe his lap time wasn't affected at all.
Yeah, definitely could be. As he is one of the laggier cars, and so it might look, especially when we're watching Alex, that he is making contact with the wall that he not necessarily actually is doing. It does look like he's on an improvement.
Yeah, something to note is that we have so many different drivers from a lot of different countries and at least 3 different continents. We have a few European drivers, and myself and B23, the commentators here, we're both American. So our connectivity to some of the European servers might be a bit dodgy at times. So that is another factor to note. But because Duco is the host, he is in France, over in Europe. So the connectivity for us on our end may not be as great, but for some of the other drivers on the European continent, like Lucian and Alex, the connection might be a whole lot better.
Indeed, yeah, that is true. We're dealing with a French host at the moment. It looks like down the field, too, though, there's quite a competitive Oh, just Inspector Seb crashes here. Facing the wrong way at the moment, on track. And he is on track facing the wrong way,
He
so
might
hopefully
just
he can
want
get out of the way.
to be dicey. There's a car coming right towards him. Oh, he is parked in such a bad spot right now. There's another
Yeah.
car coming in behind.
Oh, and that might be impeding as
Oh,
it is on the racing line. Well, there really, in this sector, isn't anywhere you can be that isn't the racing line, basically. It's so hard to not impede if you're in this section of the track here. Unfortunate stuff for Inspector Seb there, but downfield here, the quality session is extremely competitive down here, too. Between like Inspector Seb, Kemazur, and JD Killswitch, there's not much between these cars. JD Killswitch extending his position a little bit, 3/10 ahead of the two aforementioned cars here in his brand new Wonder Bread livery. I do like that JD Killswitch's liveries have all been based on NASCAR liveries week by week, so that's pretty cool to see.
so fun fact. On F24, there is a mod for on my team career that gets the Wonderbread Chevrolet livery on a Formula One car, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a Hot Wheels car. I will have to get you a picture of it sometime, but
Yeah, I
it
need to
is
see how that
one of
looks.
the wildest mods I've seen to date. But going back to the potential impeding of the Inspector Zeb unintentionally caused, if I were him, I would have just ran to the pits. I would have
Yeah.
not even risked the potential penalty or grid drop for this race or a future race. I would have just said, "Oh, but I'm just going to go back to the pits and get out of everybody's way."
Yeah,
At least on
especially
that
when the
part of
car
the
that's
track.
coming is Illusion too. Like, that's one of the faster guys on track, and you wouldn't want to accidentally affect the outcome of a race based on something like that, which could definitely happen if you're impeding one of the top guys.
Yeah, one of these front-running cars, and Illusion is trying to get super close on fuel. That car is as light as humanly possible. There's probably only a Gatorade bottle amount of fuel inside of that Honda. He's got to be super careful sometimes, or else he's just going to run out of gas. He's on a massive improvement, though.
Yeah, let's
Almost
hope he doesn't run out of
8 tenths.
gas just before the line cross. This is cutting it super
That's going to put
close.
him up in the second if this lap sticks. It might even. That's actually going to put him really close to first place. He's only going to be like a few hundredths off, maybe.
This car is
It's the
gasping at the
final lap,
moment.
too.
Oh, it looks like it's out. He had just enough to
No.
accelerate past the line, and he did.
He's up in the second. That car is definitely out of fuel now. That is dehydrated. Oh
Yeah,
man,
his
that's
car
the
is
final
gasping.
lap for Illusion.
Like a fish out of water, his car right now. That was very, very close. And it
But
looks
it paid
like
dividends too. He
Alex
jumped
is
from.
spun around too, so it doesn't look like he'll be able to take P2 back off of Illusion here. Oh, actually,
No,
he just
not
now crossed the
remotely close.
line, but to start, no, that's session over actually for Alex. It looks like session
Yeah,
over
so
for everyone. Kemazura is on a fast lap, so we'll let's go on board here with Kemazura as he finishes out the qualifying session for the field.
Whiteout actually set a new personal best for himself as well, and it's another pole position time for Whiteout. He is so rapid. You can put Whiteout in almost any car, and he's gonna make it do some voodoo magic.
Absolutely. He is definitely the class of the field in pretty much any category that we've seen him in. And yeah, sometimes when I watch his onboards and I'm really trying to study how he does certain corners and his braking points, he can just do things that don't seem quite possible. He can push the braking points farther back. He can get more rotation out of the car than seems like it should be possible. And those are the little tiny details that make a huge difference where you can get pole position by 3 entire tenths over a field this competitive.
And Keminger will finish his lap. He does not improve his time over a second slower than this best time. And that is, yep, that's the end of qualifying. All right.
Illusion
So
in the chat here predicting a tough race for himself. And I think it'll be a tough race for everybody, to be honest. Illusion is a bit out of practice compared to how he normally is. He's been kind of busy lately, and so he hasn't been practicing as much. He's been missing some rounds here and there. And so, nonetheless, as you can see, P2 is nothing to scoff at, especially on a track
not
like
in the
this.
slightest.
And
That's going to give him really good track position too, because I believe that lines him up on the outside. So if he gets a better launch than Watt does, he can make an overtake into turn one and just have the inside line going all the way up to the mountain. So it's going to be a hectic start.
Yeah, this start will be extremely important, especially for the likes of Illusion and Alex, the cars behind Whiteout here. If they can get in front of Whiteout on lap one, that would be their best chance because, as we mentioned, track position is so important here. You can actually do something about it to hold that position.
So here's something we haven't quite talked about yet, and usually we would have talked about it at some point up until now, but what do you think the tire strategy is going to be for this race here in Mount Panorama?
You know, that's actually extremely hard. Normally, I feel like I can be like an oracle and guess pretty accurately as far as that goes, but on this track, I am extremely inexperienced, and with this level of tire wear, it looked like throughout the qualifying session, like their tires were holding on extremely well, and that was the soft tire. So I'm assuming that the tires are going to handle themselves really well throughout the day, and that we're going to see minimum pit stops, probably just a one stop. And probably most of the laps, at least half of the distance, could be on soft tires, if I had to guess, going off of nothing at all.
I mean, it's even to the point where we might even see a hard tire zero stop like we saw in round one of the series. So, I mean, and like you mentioned, those soft tires held on extremely well. And we're about to get racing, so we'll find out about racing strategies here in just a minute. We're not going to wait long at all. It'll be now time for those 5 red lights to come on and go out. Then we'll have our race. 3, 2, 1. And it's lights out, away we go. It is a great start for Whiteout. He knows what needs to be done. But there's a few cars going to potentially go. There might have been a good amount of contact.
Oh, big contact.
Been a lot of contact.
Yeah, between Nuco and Alex, there was contact. Alex spins out. Nuco went wide off the track. I think he was pushed off the track there. Not quite sure with whom. Potentially Alex, as he did spin out there.
But going too wide into turn was never great.
Yeah, another turn one.
Going to go too wide and up the ascent of the mountain. We knew there's going to be chaos in this race, and chaos decided to start at lap 1. Killswitch and Azure both by side going up this mountain. Alex is going to try to get in there.
Yeah, Alex hustling it up as JD Killswitch around the outside. Super impressive to make that stick, as we got super close 4 cars right here. Let's look up ahead really quickly, but I think that's what we're going to be looking at. Yeah, for sure. Looking back here. That was, yeah, so another lap 1, turn 1 incident there for Alex where he spins out on the first turn, and it will be another recovery drive from one of the fastest cars on the grid.
Oh, not again! This time with
JD Killswitch.
Go sideways.
Did that look?
I think Killswitch came sideways on the descent there, and Alex had no room to go. And so he ended up just plowing straight into Killswitch.
And here comes Arturo,
I honestly
too.
rate that more as a racing incident, because on this map spot, like we discussed earlier in qualifying when Inspector Seb had his moment, there's not really anywhere for the drivers to go. That is just unfortunate stuff there. But speaking of Inspector Seb, he's up quite a few places. Now he's up in the P5.
Yeah, kind of just racing his own race and benefiting from the chaos around him. Minding his own business is probably the best thing you could do at this point in the race.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
got a car off the track. Kemazura goes off the track as Alex takes the position from the inside. Illusion off the track, and he's still a P2. Big gaps in front and behind. as Whiteout is just walking away with this P1 at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Artura and JD Killswitch are very close to each other at the back of the field there. Didn't see what happened to Artura, but he was pretty far off at the back of the field in the beginning of the race, and then JD Killswitch had the incident, and then now we got Artura caught up already.
Yeah, I don't think anything really happened with Artura. He was 9th on the grid, and he stayed pretty clean through all the incidents that happened at lap 1. So I think he's been pretty much okay, just holding his position. Killswitch goes into the wall again. This race is just going from bad to worse for the American, and Artura is up a spot.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of track. You crash in front of a couple of people, you're going to be collecting a lot of cars there. And so, I don't know. It's been a rough race for a few people, but it looks like everyone's kind of has spread out now and running their own race at the moment. Oh, and a 1-second penalty for JD Killswitch just to add insult to injury there. That he will have to serve right about now as we get to the straight.
Yeah, it's just not been a good race for Killswitch. I mean, he had a pretty decent starting position, but incident after incident put him way over.
Yeah, I believe he was up at P6.
He goes off track just a bit. And Artura is losing a good amount of time riding that gravel, so Killswitch might have another shot to at least get back into 8th.
Yeah, and he's in the field of view already of Artura there, and I do rate JD very highly, especially one of his biggest strengths is consistency, and so I do think that he has a good chance of coming back into this race and the race coming back to him, and, you know, just biding his time, being consistent. As he is closing in on Artura.
We still have another 22 laps to go of this race here. So there's a lot of time to make up. And I mean, look how little these tires are currently wearing out right now. At least the drivers on the medium tires. These tires are holding on pretty well. Granted, it is only 3 laps in, but I think we can see these at least a lap 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15 before a pit stop be required.
And so JD Killswitch takes that position off Artura and does so very decisively as Artura's car is limping across the field right now with an injured front left suspension and a bit of front damage as well. I believe the damage just now healed itself, as it is light mechanical damage, where the damage will be on your car for, I'm not sure exactly how long, like 30 seconds to a minute or so, but it does go away eventually. And that cost him quite a bit of time in an essential part of the track. And now we got JD Killswitch ahead. Oh, yeah, Alex off the track. But he's back on the track.
Yeah, a little bit of a moment there for the driver. Another thing to note is that the mechanics in Gran Turismo are surprisingly really quick. They can change out your suspension and a bunch of other aero components in the span of like 10 seconds combined, while still giving you fuel and tires, making a whole stop in about a minute. Alex goes off into dirt, but I'm thinking based on his continued pace, that might have just been a little bit of a connectivity issue.
Yeah, as we have Inspector Seb ahead of Alex now. So Inspector Seb, once again, just minding his own business and keeping out of trouble, making up positions here. Now he is up into really good positions. P5, just behind Yuki and the other top drivers here. As we got Nuco closing in on Illusion as well here. This might become a battle here soon.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen these drivers have these two drivers have some very good scraps throughout the season. And I'm sure in other series as well. Granted, I haven't seen Nuco or Illusion go at it in any other series, but I'm sure they've had some very spectacular battles with the Super Formula cars as well. So they know how to keep it clean, but they also know how to hit each other very hard. So expect to see some good action, but clean action as well. Nobody is going to turn it to Verstappen in Mexico. where there's just a very unhealthy dive bomb. You're not definitely these drivers. You're just going to see clean, consistent, and tight racing between these two drivers.
Yeah, these two drivers know each other about as well as any two drivers could possibly know each other, as they are some of the original members of the GPL league, even back when it was called Super Formula Cup. And these guys have always been two of some of the top drivers. They each have championships to their name where they battle all season long. Whiteout, Illusion, and Nuco are like the three main guys who have always been there, always been the top drivers, always battling with each other. And so they know exactly what to expect when they're racing each other. And it's always super competitive, exciting stuff to watch. You never quite know who's going to come out on top as they are closing in on each other.
True.
Yeah, and each of these guys, as I mentioned, are GPL Drivers Champions for the Super Formula category.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be it's definitely always a lot of fun to watch these drivers just go at it head to head, because you're giving it everything that they possibly have. And they're just so rapid with it, too. I mean, they just made that mount section look easy. These guys definitely know what they're doing behind the wheel of these G500 cars. I almost said GP500. Wrong category.
Yeah, these guys are looking like Tom and Jerry as they went through the mountain section just so fast, so close. And neither one breaking mentally whatsoever. Full focus. Very precise driving there.
Both of these drivers have the mental consistency and mental toughness of the strongest material in the world. These drivers are the epitome of just pure focus. There are no other thoughts running through their head aside from what am I doing and what's the car in front of me doing. They're also potentially thinking of some strategies too, but with mandatory pit stops not being a requirement in this league, they could just do this whole entire race without making a pit stop. Nuco currently on track to set the fastest lap of this race. We'll see if he does. And I mean, this is getting every tighter between these two here. In this France versus Norway here.
And as I checked too, the tires of every single car on the grid is running a medium tire, with the exception of Kemazur, who is on softs, and his tires are about halfway done. And so, but you can see the medium tire is holding up extremely well. I wonder if they can go for a zero stop on the medium.
Yeah, this track is particularly hard on tires. I mean, the only section that really burns through tires is that mountain section there. And even then, so something to note about Gran Turismo is that the running BOP, mind you, the tracks with the higher downforce settings are usually the ones that burn through tires quicker.
We have Inspector Seb crashed again on the same part that he crashed on during qualifying there. In the middle of the road, he lost 2 positions now just as Kemazur gets by him. And his car is clobbered. It's extremely damaged on the front and the rear. Some front left suspension damage, which will cost the bulk of his time.
Actually, that suspension damage just healed, and now it's just the aerodynamics. Now the rear part of the car, actually that just healed too. Okay. He's back in full condition.
So he must have gotten those little injuries at slightly different times then. So maybe there was a couple of contacts there that he had made. Is there wheel to wheel now?
Fanciest chance on the outside. He's got the lead slightly going into certain.
Oh, and around the outside. That was insane.
The move has been made. Nuco up into P2. What a move from the Frenchman in the Lexus.
That was an insane move. There aren't a whole lot
of Lexus drivers in this league. Most drivers opting for the Honda. But dang, Nuco is showing that he is even better than the Hondas. He's showing that without a singular doubt, he is the top Lexus driver. But
Absolutely.
now he's got to focus on getting Lucian to stay behind him, and now he's got to keep down Whiteout. Which Whiteout's still been putting in faster laps. His last lap was faster than Nuko's fastest lap by about 3/10.
I think Illusion made a slight amount of contact with the wall. He was right on his tail, and then he, I think, brushed the wall, and now there's a bit of a gap opening up over a second now. And the Constantina effect in this part of the track will open the gap up even more. And then, as we saw lap after lap, as soon as they start to go into that mountain section, the gap kind of closed up a bit. We'll see if that trend continues now that Illusion is the chasing car.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but it's also very easy to do on the track. This is probably one of the trickiest tracks that we have on the calendar for the GT500 series. So it's going to be a case of when rather than if there's going to be contact with the wall. Probably almost every driver is going to touch the wall at some point. It's just a very tight track here, especially when we go through that mountainous section like we mentioned too many times now. But possibly here down in the middle of the pack, we might see a battle between Azure and Inspector Seb. Just barely a second separating the two cars. Now there's less than that. We'll see if we see a similar run-up to the outside, like what we saw with Nuko and Illusion. A Caliber racing machine potentially chasing down that Nissan GTR of Camazur. And, okay, doesn't quite make enough or doesn't close the gap enough to make a move, but he did close that gap slightly, but it is going to fluctuate through this mountain section, especially with the dirty air from behind the Nissan. Just battling it out here through the mountains, and it's always so mesmerizing to watch these cars go through these elevation changes. Gonna go on board here with Inspector Seb. He's not anything too ballsy because that results in either contact or penalty. And ideally, he wants neither.
And there's a big tire difference now between these two, as Kem being the only soft tire runner in the field right now, his soft tires are beginning to suffer now.
It is also known that the GTRs can be a bit harder on his tires compared to the Honda behind it, so just because of the, especially on the front, due to the weight balancing or weight distribution of these cars. But,
that is right, yeah. The Honda being a mid-engine car.
Of a move. Yeah, but interesting thing to note is that I believe with this regulation of super GT cars, or GT500 as we call them, they're actually all 4-cylinders. So they're all running the 4-cylinder engine, despite both of the road going variants of the cars having V6s. So these 4-cylinders are just revving to such a high extent and getting a lot of power out of it. Japan loves their 4-cylinders. I mean, we see with the Super Formula cars, those 4-bangers are making like 600 plus horsepower.
It is absolutely insane. Oh my! Oh, huge contact.
Look at that! Oh, and it's gonna.
They're stopping for each other. It looks like, so they continue racing. That's very good sportsmanship on Camazur.
He's gonna run right into the group. He's gonna be wondering what the heck is going on here.
Oh, and now that opens up for JD Killswitch. A JD Killswitch has appeared.
Bizarre.
Yeah, maybe Camazur thought that he was at fault there and decided to wait up at the scene. When you do that, you definitely won't have to serve a penalty if you wait at the scene. Definitely nullifies what you did there. He didn't have to wait, though. As Inspector Seb was turned all the way around, he wasn't, so he could have just continued on. But very good display of sportsmanship there to wait for Seb. Although it can be tricky to be a good sport on a track so thin, as you got cars behind who are approaching, like JD Killswitch. It didn't end up being an issue, but now we got JD Killswitch on the scene looking to try to take some positions here.
Yeah, I think he actually had a better X of that corner compared to Inspector Seb. But Inspector Seb was pulling out a slight gap, probably because of that slipstream with Kemazure, but Killswitch is on that slipstream. So we'll see if there's a move going to be made and not going to happen this time. Maybe we'll see at some point in the future. Oh, but actually, here's something to note. Luco is closing in on whiteout. The gap is only just over a second and pulled a big chunk away from Lusion. And Kemazure is going to be the first car off into the pits.
Yeah, those soft tires were not holding up, and you could tell as he was starting to lose some grip and confidence into that mountain section, so probably a good idea to get rid of those. And now it's only lap 10, so you got to wonder, it's really risky if he decides to come out on another set of soft. He can just about make the race distance, but he would have to extend them another 4 laps if he did a similar stint length to what he just did on those softs. Now, the fuel load, the car will be a little lighter, so you probably can extend it a bit longer than you just did, but 4 entire more laps might be pushing it.
Here's the thing, though. That actually gets negated because whether it was intentional or not, Kemazure actually got some more fuel put into that Nissan. Oh. So he put some extra gasoline into the Nissan, which normally with these events, they're set up in a way that refuel is not needed, so very curious on why he was needed to, or he felt the need to refuel. Maybe with some of those incidents, he burned more gas than he would have wanted to, so maybe just a little bit of that extra security so he could push more,
Seb again.
Possibly? Oh, and he's stuck.
He is stuck.
Oh, this is such an unfortunate part of that trick.
Yeah, the worst way to crash,
bad to worse.
where you got a 3-point turn your way out of there, just as he was closing in on the cars ahead to, yeah, very interesting from Kemazure as well, as he is on the medium tire. So, I mean, if he was going to come out on the medium tire, I think he probably extended that first soft stint a bit too much. And again, I'm not exactly positive with the tire data on this particular track, but that crash from Inspector Seb cost him about a pit stop's worth of time. As you can see, Kemazure is now in the frame of Inspector Seb, and Kemazure just took a pit stop, so that doesn't bode well for Inspector Seb. Hopefully, for his sake, he doesn't have to take a pit stop on top of that at some point in the race.
Yeah, and I mean, I do believe there might be different tire wear settings enabled for qualifying and the actual race, so maybe as Kem was thinking, I did about 6 or so on the soft tires during qualifying, and my tires didn't burn out at all, so I could make a pretty good stint on these soft tires. But then come to race time, that was not the case at all, so he lost quite a healthy chunk of time there. Speaking of time, that gap between Nuco and Whiteout isn't getting closer, but it's not getting further either. Consistently 1.2 seconds apart from each other. And this would be the battle for the lead. So we will definitely want to keep an eye on this. He just set a new personal fastest lap, Nuco, in the Lexus, trying to get the first win for Lex the entire season. It has been Honda and Nissan. I think the Honda winning round 1 and 3, and Nicholas Boita, who's unfortunately not here this time around, winning round 2 at Watkins Glen in the Nissan. Now Lexus is the only brand out of those 3 to not get a race win.
Yeah, and it's too bad not to have Boita here today. I'm really curious to see what kind of performance he could pull out on a track like this. Especially being known as the tire whisperer, he could definitely make some magic happen with the tire strategies that only he has available to him.
I think knowing how he historically is driven, I think he could have probably made a 0 stop on a soft tire, which would be absolutely ludicrous, but I think he could happen. He could definitely make a no stop work medium. But we're about halfway through.
In the middle of the road too now. As our front runners go right by him, luckily no contact was made there as he was stuck in the middle of the road. And now he's getting blue flagged as he's attempting to pull off, but it's not a good area to do so, as we got his good friend Yuki behind him. approaching at really rapid speed, and he's trying to maintain track position. Oh, and he gets in the way. Now he's impeding. He impeded both Yuki and Alex. I think it was a little worse off for Yuki there. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Like I said, like he tried to get aside as soon as he was shown the blue flag, but it was not a good spot. There was no really spot for him to get out of the way. As Inspector Seb comes out of the pit lane crossing one of the lines, unfortunately, is now he does take a pit stop and gets a 3-second penalty on top of it. Things are going really poorly there.
Got extra fuel.
Oh, Nuko coming into the pits.
First of the front runners to pit.
From mediums that are only halfway worn, so I don't know if I feel like these mediums might have been able to make the whole race distance, as he takes a bit of fuel as well. So maybe these guys do know something that we don't know about the rate of fuel consumption. Maybe they are worried that they would run out of fuel by the last few laps. So perhaps it was more for the fuel than it was for the tires, potentially, and now he just gets an advantage of an undercut at the same time.
Or another thing that I thought about, too, is maybe that gives him a little bit of extra fuel in the tank. No, well, who cares if there's a pun intended or not? The fact of the matter is, it might give him more confidence to be able to be more aggressive and push harder towards the closing stages of that race. But before he pitted in, that he was only about a second, just under a second and a half away from whiteout. So maybe he's just trying to get more confidence in final stint of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you're driving really hard, if you over rev the engine, you want to rev each of your gears all the way to the top and keep it at the top of its revs. It burns more fuel doing that, so maybe he just kind of knows how he's driving the car, and that his rate of consumption will be a bit more as he gets past Yuki in a very clean manner there, as whiteout goes into the pits too. So it does seem this is going to be the go-to strategy for these guys, a one-stop, probably medium to medium, and take a little bit of fuel, as it is around half distance of the race right now, and their fuel consumption, whiteouts at least, is just under half. So I think he probably could manage the fuel a bit and not have to, as he only takes a tiny bit of fuel just to get it back up to the halfway point. And so, yeah, these guys probably just didn't want to have to manage fuel, stay in the pits for an extra second, take a little bit of fuel, and then not have to lose time on track from managing.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And also, because how close Nuko and whiteout were in some of these earlier stages of the race, it could just come down to like a last lap push between the two. Although I definitely think that whiteout made the most of his lap. And then Alex is like the mediating car in between both whiteout and Nuko. Nuko is now 4 or 5 seconds behind whiteout.
Yeah, whiteout definitely making out better from the timing of his pit stop there, as Nuko came out behind some cars that he had to get past, and whiteout comes out in P2. The only car ahead of him is Illusion, the gap only being 8 seconds to Illusion, meaning that when he pits, he will hand that lead right back to whiteout. So whiteout timing his gaps for that pit stop pretty much perfectly, unless Inspector Seb, the blue flagged car here, becomes a factor.
Yeah, that is possible, but I think both Luge and Alex too are gonna both probably pit in this lap to get that splash of fuel, and also just get some new tires. Oh, let's see. Actually, no, Lucian is opting to stay out for another lap. We'll see if Alex is the driver that comes into the pits.
Yeah,
the German
Illusion.
Lexus also is going to stay out.
Illusion, our new race leader, but it does seem that the new tire advantage from whiteout's brand new medium tire is making a difference here, as that gap is coming down bit by bit. And so the undercut is proving to be strong here at the moment.
Yeah, whiteout just got past the blue flagged car of Inspector Seb. Hopefully not putting any kind of defense up, because that would be impeding, and subject to a post-race penalty. He just gets out of the way, and Whiteout does do his thing.
We got Alex and Nuko very close to each other now, just as they both approach Inspector Seb, a blue flagged car, in the tricky section of the track.
Yeah,
they're very close.
Inspector Seb really can't get out of the way at this stage of this part of the track. You'll have to wait till the 3 to get fully out of the way, just because this is not a great section to try to let cars pass on. But that's not going to stop Nuko from trying to make another gutsy work. We'll see if he gets here in the mount section. He does not, but Inspector Seb is the wall again, so that's a pass.
Yeah, very luckily it was out of the way.
That's not going to be a factor for either of these Lexuses battling right now.
Yeah, and Inspector Seb getting going again.
The Lexus right now. Battle of the Lexuses right now. Nuko is going to flash the lights at Alex, but Nuko's on the fresher tires. He got the advantage too. I think this is going to be past us. It's going to be sooner or later. Nuko not going to try to go up the inside. I mean, that's a very hard take to make on chicane there. Coming to the corner, the 22nd corner of this track here. Oh, but they're bump traffic. They're just NASCAR. Oh, contact between the two Lexus cars. And more contact again. Alex is going to try to get the run up. Oh, there's
Alex on the inside this time.
Turn 1. Yeah, that's going to give Alex the advantage. Keeps Nuko wide. Nuko's on the grass a bit. And Alex takes back 3rd place, but...
Yeah, naughty there from Alex, pushing Nuko wide.
Yeah, even Nuko commenting on it in game chat. Well, that has to go to the stewards later on today.
Yeah, more than likely.
We're already almost a 3/4 with this race. This race has been great to watch.
Absolutely. And Alex, when he gets his elbows out, his elbows are quite large sometimes. And, sometimes just overdoing it a little bit. It seemed like right there it was just a bit over the line as he ported Nuko, showing him just off the track there. And it cost Nuko track position and probably a lot of overall race time, too, as he is now stuck behind another car.
Yeah. Battle of the Lexuses is definitely continuing. I mean, we know Alex is a very aggressive driver, like that of a Max Verstappen type driver. Not in the case of 2023 by winning by 40 seconds plus each time, just in the over-aggressive defense and even over-aggressive offense that we've seen from Alex too. Sometimes it has paid off great, but others it's just a bit excessive there. We'll see what happens here.
More wheel-to-wheel racing.
Bumpering, a slight bit of bumps there from Alex and Nuko. Nuko just unable to get past this fellow Lexus. I wonder if Alex is going to try to take this to the end. I mean, it's possible, but he has to manage that fuel, but those tires are just not holding on.
Yeah, and this is costing Nuko heavily as far as his overall race is concerned, because he was challenging Nuko before the pit stops happened, and now Whiteout is far up the road now compared to before all of this.
I think Lucian is potentially thinking he might go for a stop strategy as well. We'll see that plays out, but we're gonna immediately we're gonna see how this plays out between Nuko and Alex. Around the outside, Nuko makes another move. We'll get to the beginning of the mountain section, but he just doesn't quite get it to stick. No, I wonder if that was just Alex braking earlier than Nuko, or did he brake check him? But regardless, Nuko's now up into P3 after ramming into the back of Alex. I think he braked a bit earlier than Nuko would have anticipated.
Yeah, they've been doing that over and over and over again, and so you would expect it to be in the same spot every single time, these braking and turn-in points. But when you're battling, sometimes you change your line, your braking point slightly to try to throw the other person off or to try to cover off certain parts of the track, and so that might have been what happened there. And plus, too, as you could probably tell, Alex is slightly laggier, too, and so where he actually braked and where it showed him braking on Nuko's perspective might have been slightly different there and could have created a bit of lag contact.
True. That is definitely a factor that we have to take into account here. And I'm sure the stewards, if that goes up to the stewards, then that'll be taken into account as well. So
For sure. And it looks like Whiteout up in the front here is closing that gap to Illusion all the way down. Now we are within about 3.5 seconds of a gap. When they came out of the pits, that gap was about 8 seconds. That was just a handful of laps ago, so Whiteout definitely the man with the pace.
but here's the thing. How much is Illusion lifting and coasting on some of these corners to try to get that car to the end on fuel? So that is definitely something, because I think Illusion is going to try the zero stop, and if he does, he's going to have to hold off a very hard-charging Whiteout. Illusion might actually get his first win of the season.
Yeah, Illusion will definitely have to not only manage that fuel, but the tires especially, as they are now about 25% on his worst tire, and that, you know, as you get down to these drop-off phases, especially on the medium tire, it becomes quite the struggle to hold on. Your lap times are going to suffer. And that's just the condition of the tires alone is going to cost you some lap time, but then managing the tires, trying to take care of them, and the fuel loads is going to cost you a little bit more lap time as well on top of that. As if Whiteout needed any help closing gaps with lap times here, as he's the best that we've seen.
Yeah, Whiteout is... We're talking about Nuko and his consistency, also GT Switch and his consistency. Whiteout is also consistent, with the exception of his in-lap and out-lap for 13 and 14. He's been consistently in the 152s.
Oh, another crash from Inspector Seb there. Big crash. Huge crash. I'm glad I caught that. He touched the grass a bit and did about a 1080, maybe even more. And now, once again, he is having to do these three-point turns back and forth in the middle of the track on a tight section. But luckily, there's no cars anywhere near him in the field whatsoever. So he is very safe and clear at the moment. Extremely damaged car, though. Front and rear damage, front left suspension, as it's now starting to heal up a bit. Now we got Alex into the pits finally. And he's going to the soft tire.
Soft tire. Yuki behind him. I think Yuki's gonna try to make a move up. Actually, Yuki pitted that before, I think.
Yeah, Yuki with pretty much brand new mediums.
Very fresh tires.
The tire advantage definitely in the hands of Alex here, as he has on brand new soft tires and a bit less fuel as well.
Actually, looking at times here, Yuki just pitted the lap before, so this is his first fast lap on the new mediums that he had.
Autura in the pits now as well.
Alex will have the pace, granted, because he's got the grippier tires and he's got the less fuel. So I think he'll have a little bit of pace advantage too, but Yuki's actually cutting that gap to him, so maybe...
Yeah, those soft tires are probably a bit cold right now, as he just is on his out lap, and yeah, a bit of a little bit of rear wheel spin as he drops down these little elevation dips. Cold tires lack grip. It takes a couple of solid laps to get them up to their optimal operating temperatures.
Definitely. Oh, but now look how close these two are.
Oh, this is for the lead.
Leaders. Yep, this is going to be the result in a big crash if it goes wrong. Whiteout's got the outside. He's got the pace, but Illusion.
Oh, into the wall is Whiteout.
The wall a bit.
Oh, just a scrape as he doesn't lose too much ground at all from that contact there. If there even was contact.
Illusion has a bit of a moment there with a little bit of a wiggle there.
Yeah, Illusion.
His tire grip just gives out a bit.
Yeah, Illusion definitely struggling for grip here at the moment as he has to hold off the fastest driver. One of the fastest drivers in the entire world in this game. I can only imagine the pressure he's feeling right now from the lead of the race. Oh, and his that was a bad line.
Look at that! That's a pass and a half! Whiteout's back up into the lead. Now, Illusion might try to still go on a zero stopper, but it's not going to be for the race win anymore. He'll just be fighting just to keep second place.
And the gap behind is close enough. He should want to stay out now at this point, or he's going to lose more track position if he tries to pit now.
That's why still 4 more laps to go after these next 2 corners. So, I mean, I think there's enough of a gap where Illusion on the zero stop can make this work. Otherwise, he would still be in front of Alex, but he would be down a position. And as a racing driver, you're going to want to be as high up on that results chart as you possibly can. Oh, Alex having a little bit of slide, so that might open the door a little bit for Yuki, but I think it's just the softer tires and the less weight is definitely playing in Alex's favor right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that pass was like Illusion losing a bit of grip. It looks like his rear tires gave out right at a critical traction point when he was turning in. And just that little mistake, it wasn't like there was much room for Whiteout. He just had a small window of opportunity open up, and he shot right through that. And it was a perfect, clean overtake, very decisive move from Whiteout. And that is why he is the champion, is not only from just having electric pace, but from moves like that.
And also another thing to note is that there's a lot of drivers that take Ayrton as quote of, if you no longer go for a gap that exists, then you're not a racing driver. But for a gap that existed, that a lot of drivers might stop at this, or if you're the typical daily race driver, you would assume that there's a gap regardless of whatever's in front of you. But he made a move and it stuck. It's stuck like cheese getting thrown onto a cat's face. That is the weirdest analogy I think I've ever been commentating, but you get the point.
Yeah, well, there's always one of those.
Yeah,
but it's still better than the pink Himalayan salt. If you know, you know. For the OGs.
Unfortunately, I am too new to understand that, but I'm sure the people who've been around for a while, or the people who've been around for a while, I'm sure you'll get a massive kick out of that.
Yes.
It's down to 3 laps to go now. This race is about to be over. It came out kind of quick, actually.
Operation Pink Salt is underway.
I still think my favorite analogy I've ever seen during any kind of Gran Turismo commentary was during the World Series or like Nations Cup. I think about a year or two ago where the commentator referred to the traction levels of some of the cars as like a cheetah on an ice rink, and I added that to my vocabulary because it's such a good analogy too, because you can envision it.
Cheetahs are very fast, but not necessarily when they're in an ice rink.
Yeah, no. And they're sliding around a lot too. Which would especially be the case if we're experiencing rain. Actually, Alex is on track to set the fastest lap of this race. He has the fastest lap already. Well, 1:56.566.
Oh, getting very squirrely as Illusion there, as his tires are just holding on for dear life at the moment. They're just barely, and it looks like the gap is probably coming down here to Nuco, but only 2 laps left. That's a big enough gap. I think he can hold on. We had Flaring Aces in the chat too, mentioning that Illusion did a very good strategy with the zero stop, and that he's probably gonna hold on to P2 here. And with only a couple laps left, it does look like he saved himself plenty enough fuel to make the rest of the race distance, and his tires, it'll be a struggle, but he can make the race distance with these as well.
Also, I have to mention of Flaring Aces, we would like to wish Flaring Aces a happy birthday today, because it is birthday today.
Oh, I didn't know that. Happy birthday.
The GPL chat earlier.
Yeah, happy birthday to Flaring Aces.
Earlier. I don't know how old Flaring Aces is, but happy birthday nevertheless. And we hope you have an amazing day. And we are glad that you're spending at least part of your day watching us here at the Prestige League.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I had a good race with him last week in Formula GT, and so that's always good. I like very much so racing with Clearing Ace. So happy birthday to you, and thanks for being here watching us today. Oh boy. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not really any close gap to any of the. Oh, Inspector Sam again is got caught up on that mount section, and
it's
now
that same part of the
he's
track.
gonna do another 3-point turn.
It's always that same part of the track. Oh, here comes our race leader.
Right there.
Oh, big!
Between Whiteout and Inspector Sam.
It's the worst case scenario.
Oh no!
It was the absolute worst case scenario with the race leader of all people to catch him right there, and that's big damage, huge damage for Whiteout. Both of his front left and right suspension. He's just about out of fuel as well. He's got brand new tires, but that's the best thing about his situation at the moment. Other than he's got a big gap. I don't think it'll be able to be closed now because he did manage to stay on track. But if he would have spun out or ended up facing the wrong direction, that would have opened up the race win for Illusion. I think he'll be able to hold on, though.
Terminal damage was a thing in Gran Turismo. That would have been the end of Whiteout's race right then and there. That was not good.
Absolutely, and luckily it didn't affect the actual result, even though that was a huge, otherwise very consequential moment of the race. I don't think it will actually affect the end result, luckily, as Illusion catches and passes him at a more optimal part of the track. Yeah, maybe Inspector Seth will probably have to be careful here, as he's just gonna pull aside and let cars pass on the straights here.
If it was like about 5 laps sooner, then that would have definitely decided the race in Illusion's favor.
Definitely.
But in Nuko's case, that was not the problem. And I think Whiteout's going to be able to finish it. He got the whole tour of this track here on the 24th lap. And, I can imagine his heart sink.
Yeah. Seeing a car sideways. Goodness gracious. Yeah, that was not optimal. As I'm looking at Illusion's fuel load here, though, this is actually going to cut it a lot closer than I thought. Hopefully, I wonder if he's fuel mapping right now or if he's just confident to go ahead. He might not even be able to afford to do fuel mapping because of how close Nuko is behind. Because now Nuko got that gap under 2 seconds on the final lap here. If Illusion runs out of fuel on this final straight here, that could ruin his entire management stint here of really, really good management. It would be unfortunate.
I mean, you could probably afford to do some mapping on some of these corners, but definitely on the straightaway, you cannot afford to do that. But right now, Whiteout, he's got one more corner left to go. After a heart-wrenching moment there on lap 23, he comes back. Whiteout takes the win here in Australia. That's another race win for the American driver. It's going to be a close battle between Nuko and Illusion. Who's going to get it? It's going to be Illusion.
Wow. Perfectly managed fuel and tires.
Second.
What a race. And if there was only just one more lap, that would have ended differently. Nuko definitely had the pace, and he closed in right at the final corner. Yeah, what amazing management there from Illusion to get his fuel load literally at zero as he crossed the finish line. That's about as perfect as you could possibly ask for as far as management goes. And to pull off a zero stop is, I believe he's the only person in the entire field to do a zero stop. What a race from Illusion.
So here's a statistic actually that I'd have to verify and go back to the other two races to verify, but I think a zero stop strategy has a 100% to a podium position.
Yeah.
Based on the 2 instances that a zero stop has been pulled.
We had now, granted, Alex in round 1. I wasn't
sure if that was, Alex and
Boita.
Fuji. Oh, did Boita actually do a zero stop too?
I believe he did a zero stop, or maybe it was a 1 stop when everyone else did a 2 stop. I remember when he won the race, he did less stops.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be a zero stop, but that still keeps that stat alive. That it is a 100% conversion rate a zero stop, a podium position of some kind.
Yeah, and Illusion himself immediately in the chat too. Good race, Illusion. That was very entertaining to watch. He actually even had an opportunity to win that race there for a minute, but Whiteout just had way too much of a car advantage there by the time they met up with each other on track.
Yeah, but after a very race, Whiteout takes the win here at round 4 at Mount Panorama. Oh boy, that was a race, let me tell you. Oh, it was funny. It was a zero stop on a medium compound too, which is very interesting. We weren't expecting that. I don't know, and if we were expecting a zero stop, it would have been on a hard tire compound. But once again, here is the end results for this race. We have Whiteout, Illusion, and Nuko, our top 3 drivers, followed by Alex, Yuki, Killswitch, Azure, Arturo, and then Inspector Seb. Oh, and that was a race and a half. Are we doing interviews? That is a good question. You know what? Let's get Illusion in here for an interview.
I'm down. We can give it a try.
All right.
Now,
I'll go ahead and ask Illusion if he'd like pop in for a review.
Cool, I'll just send an invite as well. And just as a warning to everyone, this is our first time trying an interview. So if it doesn't work out, feel free to bear with us there. I'll send an invite to Whiteout and Illusion, see if they wanted to. I don't think Whiteout will join. I'm not sure that he even has a microphone. He never joins. But yeah, let's see if they do.
We'll at least get Illusion.
Yeah. We'll give it a try. Oh, cool. And I'm down to see if Nuko wants to as well.
Yeah, we'll get the 2 remaining spots on the podium a chance to talk about it, because that was a great battle there towards the end there.
Yep. We can. Welcome, Illusion. What a race from you. How did you pull off the zero stop? You had literally 0 fuel at the end of the race. Was that planned from the beginning?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're hearing. There it is.
Is he audible on the stream?
I'm hearing it on my end now.
Okay, sweet. And I'm curious at Arturo says he doesn't hear him. So we just make sure that your settings in the party is set to allow your voice to be shared. But I'm curious too, if you were fuel mapping those last few laps, or if you were just full power.
Full send. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we see a lot of instances too where a car would just get turned around in an unfortunate spot towards the top of that mountain. So we know that was very stressful for you guys running in the front. Still in position, and you've actually contributed to a stat that we still have officially verified, but so far, every time a driver has done a zero stop in one of these races in this series, it has led to a podium. So, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't think he's audible on the stream. Yeah.
That's right. I have it on my recording, so it might be
okay.
all right.
True that. Yeah, that was pretty much perfectly played as far as management goes, having literally zero fuel as you cross the finish line in both quali and in the race itself. And we saw other people when they went to the pits, they actually took a bit of fuel too, and that was a bit surprising for us as we don't normally see that.
Well, congratulations, and you did amazing today. And we have to see you next time when we go to. I believe we're going to Kyoto next time, or no, Kyoto was last round. We're going to Topolis for the next round.
For sure. Thank you
All right,
for
thank you
attempting
so
our first
much
interview
for.
here.
Yep, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Do we want to try Nuco as well? We could give it a
But
try.
I think actually Nuko said he had to go, so
Oh, I
maybe he
see.
won't be available. I believe that wraps up for us here. So, yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in for round 4 of the GT500 series with Grand Prestige League. 2 weeks' time, we'll be back here again in Jan this time for the last 2 rounds of the season. So yeah, it's gonna be hectic, and I think we're gonna still see some really strong racing here. So make sure you're following us on our socials, and also make sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, because you're definitely not gonna want to miss this. So we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Yep. See you guys later next 2 weeks.